Story number 1. The woman who returned the same doll. Every week, I worked at a Target in the suburbs, the kind that looks exactly like every other Target you've ever been in. Fluorescent lights, red polos, that faint scent of plastic and popcorn near the front. I worked customer service, returns and exchanges mostly. It wasn't exciting, but it paid the bills and let me fade into the background, which I liked. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because I was on my second coffee of the day, standing at the returns desk near the entrance, watching the automated doors swoosh open and closed. She walked in, an older woman, maybe late 60s, short white hair, tucked neatly behind her ears. She wore a pale blue coat and carried a small, square box wrapped in a faded shopping bag. She stepped up to the counter and smiled, not wide, just enough to be polite. "I'd like to return this, please," she said, placing the box on the counter. I peeled back the edge of the bag and saw a porcelain doll inside. Pale skin, glassy green eyes, golden curls tied with a red ribbon, one of those collectible types. The tag was still on it. "Was there anything wrong with it?" I asked, going through the usual script. She shook her head. "Just changed my mind." I processed the return, refunded her card, and placed the doll in the bin behind me, meant for damaged or returned items. She thanked me quietly and left. That should have been it. Just a routine return. But she came back the next Tuesday. Same woman, same pale blue coat, same bag, same doll. I recognized it immediately. The scuff on the right shoe, the small tear in the dress, hem, identical. She handed it over, just like before. "Changed my mind," she said again, tone calm, voice soft. This time I hesitated. "Didn't you return this last week?" I asked, half laughing, thinking maybe she'd accidentally bought the same thing twice. She looked up at me with a blank expression. "Did I?" she said, almost like she genuinely didn't know. "Must be my memory." She smiled again, same half smile. I processed it anyway. The third week, I was already watching the door when she arrived. It was 10:48 a.m. I remember checking the time because it struck me how precise her routine was. Same doll, same return. She never asked for anything else, never browsed, never looked around. That week after she left, I checked the bin where we keep returned items. The doll from the week before wasn't there. I asked my coworker, Tara, if she'd seen it. "The doll?" she repeated, glancing over. "No idea. Maybe it got processed out. They throw that stuff into backstock or send it back to the vendor sometimes. But I knew it hadn't. I checked the logs. No one had scanned it. It just wasn't there." By the fourth week, I didn't say anything to her. I just took the return and watched her walk out again. Same pace, same steps. This time I kept the doll behind the counter instead of putting it in the bin. I told myself it was just curiosity. I wanted to see if it changed. Maybe she was returning different dolls that looked the same. That would have made sense. That night, after the store closed, I took it out and set it on the counter. I turned off half the lights and sat down with my phone, scrolling through emails and trying not to look at it too much. But it was hard not to. Something about those eyes. They didn't look straight ahead. They seemed off, like they were looking past you, over your shoulder. I shifted it a few inches. The eyes still seemed to follow. I told myself it was just the glass, but then it blinked. Just once, a slow, deliberate closing and opening. I froze. It was subtle, almost like a trick of the light. I stared, breath caught in my throat, waiting for it to move again. It didn't. I stood, picked it up, Turned it over. No batteries. No seams. Just porcelain and cloth. I set it down facing the wall and went home early. The next morning it was back in the bin. Not how I left it. Not on the counter. No one said anything. When she came again the following Tuesday, I didn't say a word. I just processed the return. But something in her eyes lingered longer this time, like she knew I'd kept it overnight. After she left, I grabbed the store manager, Dave, and told him everything. I expected him to laugh or brush it off, but instead, he frowned. Was it a doll in a red dress? He asked. I nodded. He looked uncomfortable. That's been happening here for a while, he said. Started before you joined. Different employees. Always Tuesdays. Always her. We stopped questioning it after a while. Figured maybe she's just grieving or something. Why keep accepting the return, I asked. He sighed, because every time we don't, something breaks. Power outages. Freezer failures. Once, the entire POS system crashed for an hour, like clockwork. Weird, I know, but corporate doesn't care and it's not worth the hassle. I left that conversation more disturbed than I'd expected. Something about the way he'd said it. Not joking, not sarcastic, just tired. That night I looked through the surveillance system. I pulled footage from all the past Tuesdays and I saw it. She never entered through the front door. I rewound the footage again and again. From 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. She was just there, at the counter. No entry, no walking down the aisle. Just a cut in the footage where suddenly she's standing in front of me with the doll. I didn't sleep that night. Week 6, I didn't go in. I called in sick. I thought maybe if I wasn't there, it would stop. It didn't. Tara texted me that the woman came again. Same time, same doll. I asked if she checked the return bin afterward. She didn't leave anything this time, Tara replied. Just stood at the counter, smiled, said, "See you soon," then walked toward the back and vanished. I returned the next day. The doll was behind the counter again. I didn't ask how it got there. I left it alone for days, but I started noticing things. Whispers in the break room when no one else was there. The scent of old perfume, powdery and sweet, clinging to my shirt after long shifts. My own reflection lingering a little too long in the freezer doors. One night I stayed late. The store was quiet, just me and the hum of the coolers. I heard footsteps down the toy aisle, software deliberate. I didn't call out. I didn't move. They stopped just behind the corner. I waited, barely breathing. A whisper. Changed my mind. I turned slowly. No one was there, but the doll was sitting on the floor at the end of the aisle, its head tilted to the side, eyes wide open. I left it there. I didn't pick it up. I didn't tell anyone. Now it's been weeks since she last came in. No sightings, no returns. But the doll, it's still here. Some days, it's on the counter. Some days, in the fitting rooms. Once, I found it inside my locker. I tried throwing it out. It came back. I don't work customer service anymore. I switched to stocking overnight, far away from the front doors. I avoid Tuesdays. I keep my head down. I don't ask questions. But every now and then I see her. Not walking in, but standing still just outside the store on the edge of the cameras, pale blue coat, same quiet smile, waiting. And the worst part, I think she's waiting for me to change my mind. Story number 2. The price tag that wouldn't scan. I've been working at Target for a little over 3 years now. Nothing special. Mostly cashier shifts, sometimes helping out in electronics or seasonal. I've always liked the routine. Clock in, smile, scan items, say, "Have a nice day," Clock out. No stress, no thinking, just repetition. It's comforting in a way. This happened on a slow Tuesday afternoon in October. The store was quiet. Rain tapped against the wide glass windows at the entrance, soft and steady, like background noise. It smelled like cinnamon and plastic in the air, fall display stuff, pumpkin-scented candles near the registers. The warm overhead lights buzzed faintly above me as I stood at lane 4, shifting my weight from foot to foot. A woman came up with just one item, a toaster, still sealed in the box. I gave the usual smile. "Hey there. Find everything okay?" She nodded, but didn't speak. She looked tired, or maybe just distant. Her eyes were a bit glassy, like she hadn't slept in days. I reached for the toaster and turned it over, looking for the barcode. There it was, on the bottom right corner, standard white label. Nothing unusual. I scanned it. Beep. Then, nothing. The screen stayed blank. I tried again. Still nothing. Sometimes the scanner acts up, so I moved it to the other one on the side. Still nothing. I held the box up under the brighter overhead light and looked closer. The barcode was there, perfectly clear. But every time I scanned it, no response, not an error, not even a beep. Like the scanner couldn't even register it existed. "Huh, that's weird," I mumbled. The woman said nothing, eh? "Let me try looking it up manually," I said, already typing the product description into the register. 4-slice stainless steel toaster. Brand name? I paused. There was no brand. Just a white box, minimal text. No label, no logo. Even the manufacturing details were faint, almost like they'd been rubbed off. "Did you get this from kitchenware or clearance?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just tilted her head slightly and said, "It was on the end cap." I nodded and typed in the SKU manually. Still nothing. I turned to the walkie clip to my hip. "Hey, do we have anyone on electronics or small appliances got a toaster that won't scan or show up in the system?" Silence. Then static. Then nothing. The woman was still staring at me, not impatient, just watching. I looked down at the box again and felt a chill crawl up my arms. I couldn't explain it, but something about the weight in my hands felt wrong. Like it was too heavy in a way that didn't match the size. Or maybe it was just the silence pressing in from all sides. I turned back to her. "Would you mind if I just ran to check the shelf real quick? Maybe find another one?" Her mouth barely moved. "It's the last one." She said it like a fact, not an opinion. I hesitated. "Right. Okay." I hit a key to override the system and keyed in a price. $34.99. The average for that kind of appliance. She handed me exact cash. No change. Then she picked up the box and walked out without another word. I stood there for a moment after she left, staring at the receipt still dangling from the printer. That night, after closing, I mentioned it to Marcus in backstock. "Was it one of the older models?" he asked. "We discontinued a bunch of those." "No idea. The box didn't even have a name on it." He frowned. "We haven't carried blank boxes in years. Probably a return that slipped through." "Wouldn't it still scan, though?" "Unless it wasn't supposed to." He laughed, but there was something tight in it, like he wasn't really joking. I brushed it off. People bring in weird returns all the time. Sometimes items from other stores get mixed in. But 2 days later, I saw it again. Different customer this time. Young guy in a hoodie. Same box. Same blank label. Same toaster. It was unmistakable. That faint scratch on the top. The dented corner. I knew it was the exact same one. He placed it on the belt and said, "This won't scan." Before I even touched it, I felt it, that same unnatural weight, that same cold metal feeling beneath the cardboard. "I think this is the same one I sold earlier this week," I said, trying to keep my voice light. The guy blinked. "Nah, I just bought it today. Didn't work. Returning it." "Do you still have the receipt?" He shook his head. "No, I lost it. I scanned it anyway. Still nothing. I typed it manually. No results. I told him we couldn't process the return without a receipt and without the item existing in our system." He didn't argue, just nodded, picked up the box, and walked off. But he didn't leave through the front doors. I waited, watched, pretended to tidy the end cap. But he never passed the sensors, never walked through the gates. He just disappeared down aisle 17 and didn't come back. When I told security, they checked the cameras. There was footage of him approaching my register. There was footage of him walking away. But there was no footage of the toaster. It didn't show up on video. Just an empty belt. Just me, scanning air. After that, I started keeping an eye on returns. I'd skim through the footage every week. Sometimes on break, sometimes after hours. I was looking for that toaster, that same box. And I kept seeing it. Different people. Always one item. Always silent. Always alone. Once, a kid brought it to self-checkout and stood there for 30 minutes before leaving it behind. When the staff checked the box, it was empty. The toaster was gone. The weirdest part came about a week later. It was near closing. I was walking through appliances doing recovery, straightening boxes, and restocking labels. And then I saw it, on the shelf, perfectly lined up. Same blank box, same faded barcode. I didn't touch it. I just stared. I could feel the hum of the overhead lights, hear my own breath slow and uneven. The air felt heavy, like the air right before a thunderstorm. Charged, thick, still. I leaned closer and noticed something new. A sticker, slightly peeled, tucked under the barcode. I lifted the corner and saw a second barcode underneath, faded, smudged, but I could just make out a number. I snapped a picture with my phone and took it to the register, typed it in manually. The product entry that came up didn't match anything in our system, but it brought up a recall notice from 2004. Hazard, electrical failure, resulting in fatal fire, child fatality reported, product permanently recalled and discontinued. Do not resell. My throat went dry. I clicked into the report and saw the image. Same toaster, same box, same dent on the corner. I backed away from the register and looked toward the shelf. It was gone. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't see anyone. Just gone. I tried telling Dave, the store manager. He gave me this tight-lipped look, the kind you give someone who's saying something you really wish they weren't. "You're not the first to notice it," he said quietly. "Then why don't we pull it?" "We've tried," he said. "Trust me." He told me the first report came from an employee named Lauren. Back in 2015, she quit 2 weeks later. Since then, every attempt to remove it failed. The moment it leaves the store, it comes back, sometimes on a shelf, sometimes in a return bin. Once, it was found in someone's trunk after their shift. They didn't remember putting it there. I started working fewer hours after that. I stopped going near the appliances section altogether. I still dream about that box sometimes, not the toaster. Just the box, sitting alone on the belt, waiting for someone to notice the barcode that won't scan. Last week, someone left a note in my locker. No name, just folded paper. It said, "Don't scan it. It shows you how you'll die." I keep the note in my wallet. I don't know why. Maybe just to remind myself it wasn't all in my head. Or maybe it's because I haven't seen the toaster again in weeks, and I'm starting to wonder if it's looking for someone else now. Story number 3. The man who only shopped at closing. I worked the closing shift at Target for almost a year before I noticed him. At first, I didn't pay much attention. We had regulars, late-night shoppers, people running in for diapers or milk 5 minutes before we locked the doors. That's just how it goes. But this man, he was different. He came in right before closing, always at 9:55 p.m. We close at 10, same time, same pace, never rushed, never out of breath, just on time. He wore a black jacket, nothing fancy, blue jeans, clean sneakers, no cart, no basket. He never bought anything, just walked the aisles like he was looking for something he'd lost a long time ago. I noticed him maybe 3 weeks into working register. I remember glancing at the clock, then back up, and there he was, walking past electronics toward the toy section. He never spoke, never looked at anyone, just browsed slowly, hands in his pockets. When I asked my coworker Lisa about him, she shrugged. "Oh yeah, that guy's been coming in for months, always right before close. He ever buy anything?" She shook her head. Not once. It started to bother me more than it should have. I don't know why. Maybe it was the consistency, the exactness. He never missed a day, not even Sundays. It's like his internal clock was synced with the store's schedule. I started watching him more closely. He moved slowly, always hitting the same sections: home goods, seasonal, toys, and then snacks. Never picked anything up, just walked through like he was remembering. Sometimes he paused in the candle aisle and just stood there, staring at the shelf, like he could smell something I couldn't. There was something off about him, but not in an obvious way. He wasn't creepy. He didn't act strange. He just didn't fit, like a piece from a different puzzle. I told myself it was harmless, probably some lonely guy trying to kill time. Maybe he lived alone. Maybe he used to shop there with someone and couldn't let go of the habit. But then he stopped showing up, just like that. One Tuesday night, he wasn't there. Nor Wednesday or Thursday. A whole week passed, and for the first time in months, the clock hit 10 o'clock and the doors locked without him ever walking in. I felt uneasy. I didn't know I'd been waiting for him until he didn't come. Lisa noticed too. "Guess he finally found what he was looking for," she joked. But there was a hint of something else in her voice, like she didn't fully believe it. I didn't either. Then, about 2 weeks after he vanished, I stayed late to help with inventory. We finished around midnight. The store was dim, lights low, only emergency fixtures on. I was walking past toys toward the back room when I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I stopped, and there he was, standing at the end of the aisle, exactly where he used to stop every night, back turned, still, like he'd been there the whole time and I'd just now noticed. I felt my throat tighten. My footsteps slowed. "Hey, sir?" "We're closed." No response. I stepped closer, just enough to see the side of his face under the low light. Pale, eyes slightly open. Then he was gone. No turning, no walking away. Just gone. I stood there for a long time, listening to the silence. I didn't tell anyone. I wasn't even sure what I'd seen. The next day, I checked the security footage. I watched the toy aisle from 11:45 p.m. to midnight. Nothing. No movement. No figure. Just an empty row of action figures and half-stocked shelves. I thought maybe I was just tired. Maybe I imagined him. I told myself that for days. But then we hired Cameron. He was new, young, still getting used to night shifts. His first week on closing, he asked me casually, "Who's the guy that shows up just before close?" I froze. "What guy?" "You know, tall dude in the black jacket, quiet, doesn't buy anything." I stared at him. "When did you see him?" "Last night, then again tonight. Walked in around 10 minutes to close. Walked past me like he knew the place. Looked like he was thinking about something." That night, I asked Lisa if she remembered when the man first started coming in. She thought for a second, then said, "Fall, maybe? October? Why?" "Just curious." She frowned. "You're not the only one who noticed him, you know. Ryan, he used to work nights before you. He said he talked to the guy once." That got my attention. "What did he say?" Lisa hesitated. "Said the man asked him where the red trucks were. Like toy trucks, number full size." Said it like he was serious. Then he looked right at Ryan and said, "I left it here." "What did Ryan do?" Laughed. Thought he was messing around. But when he looked back, he was gone. I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I asked security if they had footage from the day before. They pulled it up. 9:55 p.m., nothing unusual. Just regular shoppers, last-minute returns, some kid begging for candy. But no man in a black jacket. Not on any camera. Not in the entryway. Not in the aisles. Nothing. I watched every second of footage between 9:55 and 10:10. I even fast-forwarded and slowed down. Nothing. But I know he was there. Cameron saw him. Lisa saw him. I saw him. So why doesn't he show up on the cameras? I don't have an answer. One night I was restocking a shelf in seasonal when the lights flickered slightly. Just a buzz and a brief dim. I turned and saw him again at the end of the aisle, just standing, watching. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then he lifted his hand slightly and pointed toward the back wall where the old clearance shelves used to be before the Rinar Buri Modis Dalsenio. Then he turned the corner. When I followed, the aisle was empty. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I went to the back wall behind seasonal where we kept the overstock bins. I noticed something strange, an old display shelf partially covered with a black tarp. I pulled it back slowly. Behind it was a rusted metal sign, bent, dusty. It read, "Clearance, auto accessories." I didn't even know we used to have an auto section. Buried behind the shelf was a stack of unopened boxes. One had a faded label, "Red Toy Truck, 2006 recall." Something about the date struck me. I Googled it on my phone. There had been an incident in 2006. A father and his son shopping late. The boy ran off during closing. They found him hours later in the auto section, pinned under a collapsed display shelf. He'd been playing with a red toy truck. The father left the store screaming that night. Witnesses said he kept shouting, "I told him to stay close. I told him I'd come back." He never returned. At least, not officially. The man's name wasn't listed in the article. No photos. Just that story. It's been months now. I still work closing. And every now and then, I look up at 9:55 and see him. walking slowly past the toy section, hands in his pockets, eyes distant, still searching. And I wonder if he's looking for something he lost, or if he's just waiting for someone to finally tell him it's time to go. Story number 4, The Haunted Fitting Room, number 3. I started working at Target during my first year of community college, just part-time, mostly afternoons and weekends. I didn't mind it. The shifts were easy enough, the people were decent, and I liked having somewhere to be. Something about the clean aisles, the scent of detergent near home goods, and the soft pop music overhead. It felt normal, predictable. They assigned me to the fitting room on my 3rd week. It wasn't a hard job. You stand at the counter, tag the clothes people take in, count how many items, answer the phone if it rings. Sometimes I'd help clean out the stalls between rushes. It was quiet back there, tucked in a corner of the store, between women's wear and the employee break room. There were 5 fitting rooms total, numbered 1 to 5. But number 3 always stood out. The layout was the same as the others. Small mirror, bench, red hook on the wall. But the light inside always seemed a bit dimmer. And the door creaked more than the rest. I figured it hadn't been oiled properly. Nothing unusual. The first time I really noticed something was off, it was subtle. A girl, maybe 18 or 19, came out of room 3 looking pale. She was holding a couple dresses and had this weird, distant look. I asked if everything was okay. She hesitated, then said, "I think someone else was in there with me." I frowned. In the room? No, not exactly. I just felt it. She left without buying anything. I didn't think much of it then. Customers get weird sometimes. Fitting rooms make people uncomfortable. Mirrors, fluorescent lights. It messes with your head. But then it happened again. Different woman. Maybe mid-40s this time. She came out of fitting room 3, holding her purse close, like she was hugging it. I asked if everything went okay. She just said, "That mirror's strange. It doesn't feel right." I peeked inside after she left. It looked fine, a little dusty. The lighting was still slightly off, but it was just a room. Still, I started noticing patterns, people avoiding that stall even when it was open, choosing 1 and 5 more often. If someone ended up in 3, they were usually out faster, and they always looked unsettled. One evening during a slow shift, I decided to sit in there myself, just to see. I closed the door behind me and sat on the bench. It was quiet. Just the soft whir of the vent and the muffled footsteps outside. I looked at my reflection. Nothing weird. Just me. A little tired in the red polo. And khakis. But after a minute, I started to notice something. The mirror had depth. Not in a poetic sense. It just felt like it was showing more space than was actually there. Like if I leaned in close enough, I'd see a second room behind my shoulder. I chalked it up to lighting, but then I heard it. A breath. Software. Just over my left ear. I spun around. The room was empty, door still closed. I left quickly, pretending I'd heard something from sales floor. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but I quietly started steering customers away from that room when I could. But this one's cleaner, I'd say. Or try this one. It has better light. A few weeks passed. Nothing serious happened. Then one night, right before closing, a mom and her daughter came in. The girl was maybe 6, holding a sparkly sweater. I let them in. The mom went into stall 2. The girl asked if she could use room 3. I hesitated. I almost said No, but I didn't want to be weird about it, so I nodded. After about 5 minutes, the mom came out. The daughter didn't. I knocked lightly. Sweetie, you okay in there? No response. I knocked again, a little louder. Everything all right? Still, nothing. I called her name, which I'd overheard the mom say earlier. Ellie. Then I heard a giggle, but not from inside the room. It was faint, from behind me, near the storage door that led to the employee area. I turned around. Nothing there. When I looked back, the fitting room door to number 3 was wide open. Ellie was standing just inside, staring into the mirror. I asked if she was okay. She nodded but didn't say anything, just kept looking at her reflection, her little fingers curled tightly around the sleeve of the sweater. Her mom called her, and she walked out without a word. After they left, I checked the room. It was cold, noticeably colder than the rest. I reached up to feel the vent, but there wasn't one in that room. That night, I asked Lisa, who'd worked there for years, if anything weird had ever happened in fitting room 3. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, yeah, but no one really talks about it. What happened? She looked down. There was a girl, back in 2012, I think. Came in alone. Staff found her on the bench. Pills. They say it was an accident, but no one really knows. Which room? She hesitated. 3. I stopped using it after that. Most of us did. Unofficially, anyway. If someone insisted, we'd unlock it, but we'd never suggest it. A few nights later, I was closing up. Everyone had gone home. I was doing a final sweep, making sure everything was locked and clean. I walked past the fitting rooms and heard something. A thump. I stopped. It came again. A soft, dull knock, like someone tapping their foot or hitting a wall. It was coming from room 3. I walked up slowly, phone light in hand. The door was closed. All the others were open. I reached for the handle. It was locked, but we'd already cleared the rooms. I was sure of it. Hello? I said quietly. No answer. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. It was empty, but the mirror, it had a smudge, not like a fingerprint or dirt. It was a handprint. Small, child-sized, right in the center. I didn't clean it. I just closed the door and left the lights on. Now I avoid that hallway when I can. I don't mention it to new hires. Let them figure it out on their own like I did. But sometimes, late at night, I'll be walking by and I'll see the door to fitting room 3 slowly swing shut. All the others stay still. Just that one. And every now and then, someone will come out after using it and ask, do your mirrors ever move? I just say no. But I never use that room anymore. And I never look too long into the mirror if I pass it, because sometimes I think it looks back. Story number 5. The return that came with a note. I worked the returns desk at Target for almost 2 years. It was the kind of job where every day felt the same, which honestly, I liked. People came in with broken hair dryers, wrong sizes, unopened electronics. Nothing surprising. You smile, scan the receipt, print the refund. Easy. It was a Monday morning when the toaster showed up. Not unusual on its own. We got a lot of small kitchen appliances, especially after the holidays. This one was already sitting on the counter when I clocked in. A black box, maybe a little scuffed around the corners. Standard brand, the kind we carry in store. There was no customer with it, just the box, resting neatly by the return register. I asked my coworker Jenna about it. She was finishing her shift. Guy left it a few minutes ago, she said. Didn't say much. Said it was defective. I told him you'd handle it. Receipt? She shook her head. Nope. Just the box. I figured it was one of those drop-offs people make when they're in a rush. Happens all the time. I brought it behind the counter and opened the box. The toaster was there. Looked new. Maybe used once. But sitting on top of the appliance, folded neatly, was a piece of lined paper. That was unusual. I picked it up thinking it was a receipt. But it wasn't. Just 4 words, written in shaky handwriting. Don't plug it in. No explanation, no name, no refund slip, just that. I stared at it for a while, unsure whether I should laugh or be concerned. I showed it to Marcus, the shift lead. Probably some prank, he said. Just toss the note. See if the toaster works. I didn't. I put the note back in the box and slid it onto the shelf where we keep questionable returns. Items that need manager inspection before we process them. But something about it nagged at me. That afternoon was slow. Barely a trickle of customers. I kept looking at the box between returns, wondering what the story was. By the end of my shift, curiosity got the better of me. I took it into the break room. It was quiet in there. Just the buzz of the fridge and the soft hum of the vending machine. The toaster sat on the table like any other appliance, harmless. I took it out of the box. Standard 2-slice model. Brushed metal with black trim. The cord was wrapped neatly around the base. I unwrapped it and plugged it in. Nothing happened. No light, no sound, not even that quiet click you usually get when power hits. I checked the outlet with my phone charger. The outlet worked fine. I tried the toaster again. Still nothing. Then I noticed something odd. There was a faint, burned smell. Not strong, but there, like old smoke trapped in metal. I didn't press the lever. I just sat there for a minute. Then I unplugged it and put it back in the box. I didn't tell Marcus. The next morning, I opened the return shelf to put away a hair straightener someone brought back. The toaster was gone. I looked around, checked the shelf twice, checked the back hallway. Nothing. I figured maybe Marcus tossed it, or maybe one of the managers sent it out with the vendor returns. That's usually what happens with low-cost electronics. I didn't think much about it after that until 3 days later. A woman came up to the counter with a black box, same size, same shape. She placed it down slowly like she didn't really want to touch it. "This didn't work," she said. Her voice was flat. I started the usual questions. "Do you have a receipt?" She shook her head. I opened the box. Same toaster, same cord, same slight scuff near the timer dial, and on top, another note. It showed me something. I didn't say anything. I just stared at it. The woman didn't look at me. Her eyes were fixed somewhere behind me, like she was watching something over my shoulder. I processed the return, gave her store credit. She nodded and left without another word. That night I told Jenna. Showed her the second note. She didn't laugh. "Maybe it's just some joke. People trying to go viral or something," she said. "Then why not film it? Why not post it?" She didn't answer. I went home thinking about it more than I should have. That same burned smell lingered on my fingers even after I washed them. The next morning I opened early. The air in the store felt different, heavier, like when it's about to storm but nothing ever breaks. The toaster was back on the shelf. I hadn't put it there. No one had. No box this time. Just sitting there on the wire rack behind the counter. Cord, hanging loose like someone had dropped it. No note. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't touch it. That afternoon a man came in. Mid-40s, quiet, polite. He came straight to me. Did someone return a toaster here? He asked. I hesitated. Maybe. Why? I think it was mine, he said. I left it here last week. He looked tired, pale. I'm not here to return it, he added. I just want to know, did anyone plug it in? I didn't answer. He sighed. It doesn't show you your future. That's what I thought at first. He rubbed his forehead. It shows you your end. Then he walked away. Didn't ask for it back. Didn't wait for a reply. Just left. The toaster disappeared again that evening, and for a while, I stopped seeing it. But the notes kept showing up, in the drawers, inside the return bins, even in my locker once, all written in the same hand. Don't plug it in. It showed me something. It remembers. You already saw it. I stopped sleeping well. I started dreaming about the break room, about the toaster on the table, sitting in front of me, like it was waiting. Sometimes, in a dream, I plug it in, and it works. The coils glow red, and something dark rises in the reflection of the metal. Not a shape exactly, just the idea of something watching. I wake up before the toast pops. It's been a few weeks now. No one's returned it again. But sometimes I smell that faint scent of burned metal near the returns desk. Just for a moment. Just enough to notice. And every now and then when the store's quiet and the lights hum a little louder than usual, I wonder, what happens if someone plugs it in again? And what if the toaster is still waiting for someone who hasn't seen it yet? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more quiet, chilling horror just like this. Make sure to watch the other videos appearing on your screen right now. You won't want to miss them. And if you've ever had a strange or creepy experience of your own, share it in the comments below. We're listening.